when people are asked why they're buying it, what they feel about alternative meats, most of them are seeing it as healthier. Most of them are seeing it as more environmentally friendly. What's interesting is the number one reason for trying is typically, at this point at least, curiosity. And typically when I talk to clients, that's the one thing they point to, especially those that are in the meat companies right now, and they see that as a red flag. They think that's a red flag, that the idea that it's a novelty. I don't believe that. I don't believe that that's really what that is. I think it's just a natural phase at this point where people are curious of what it is. But I also think it's telling. And the reason is that I've studied vegetarianism. I've studied why people move to alternatives. Typically, when people are eating vegetarian or go to vegetarian, they start, eating a meat-based diet, and then they move up. They move from beef, to pork, to chicken, to fish before they're out. And then they'll move into a complete vegetarian. And I like to call this the protein ladder. You see this typically in research when people are moving away from meat, that they'll move up the ladder. And the reason that they're being pushed up the ladder is everything what we've been talking about. It's ethical, it's environmental, it's health-based. All of those are leading people up the ladder. But what's interesting, for those of you that have dabbled with vegetarianism or tried to be a flexitarian, there's a lot of things that push you back down the ladder. And that's a lot of the things we've been talking about. There's social pressure. What are you going to eat at a barbecue if you're not able to eat a hamburger? Taste is also doing it. Cost and convenience, of course, is doing it. So typically people spin in one place or the other. They'll be at chicken, and then they'll move back down because of bacon. They'll move one way or the other. And so that ladder is really interesting. And for centuries, actually, people have been up and down this ladder, and then out, right, into vegetarianism. What I've seen as I've talked to consumers and I've looked at it is that companies at the beginning, like Beyond and Impossible, actually started breaking the ladder on both sides, because they started to advertise that they're more ethical because of their lack of the attachment to animals. It's more environmental. And then you're starting to see them trying to break the ladder even further. Beyond is talking about that they're going to launch a more healthy version of Beyond, because some people are seeing it as more processed. And on the other side, Impossible and Beyond are both trying to get the price parity down to meat. So I think that this idea of the protein ladder is super interesting, and I think that the breaking of it is really telling for consumers of why I think alternative proteins has really changed the paradigm in a sense, because it's pushed us off of something we've been at for centuries in a way. What I'm also seeing, though, is that there is the new protein ladder, which is exactly the same, but the center is different. So we'll move from real meat, in a sense, over to these alternatives, but the ladders are still the same. And so you've got, and I'm not putting these in any particular order, you've got the plant-based, you've got the more fermented based, and then you've got the more cultured based. And then I'm also putting in here, because it is just based on the ladder, I'm putting in here as well meat companies, because a lot of these newer meat companies are moving to the types of meat that are more environmental. So they're pushing up on one ladder, or they're pushing down on the other ladder. So this will be, in my mind, the future, is that this new ladder, and the companies that make it, you notice I didn't put insect or anything in here, because it doesn't work on the ladder. And there's a lot of different companies that won't get this ladder right. And so when I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this from a consumer point of view, and I'm looking at this from a company point of view, that's how I'm looking at it.